Welcome into the Graham Lincoln Mac Lane podcast presented by Ingles, the official supermarket of Graham Lincoln Mac Lane. It's an emergency pod. And Mac, there are so many things that happened this football season that if you would have told me that they were to happen, I don't know, Virginia playing for an ACC championship, Duke winning the ACC championship, Miami in the Final Four, Clemson going 7-6, the list goes on and on, Florida State having their start and then collapsing, I would have said, I don't believe you. But I think there's just no way on earth I would have believed you if you had told me January 5th, Clemson would announce Chad Morris was its offensive coordinator. I think I would have said, what year is it? Did we go back in time? I don't know. I feel certain way about it, Mac, but you know more than me. You played for the man. So I'm going to trust your opinion probably more than mine. So let's just start there, Mac. Clemson has
Well,
hired Chad Morris.
yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, first of all, I love the timeline of events that occurred this year and the
I'm sure I missed
probability.
other crazy things.
Yeah, right. There's a long, long list, and the probability of this has to be as close to zero as you physically can be, whatever that
Mm-hmm.
tiny number is. And whoever wants to show that in the comments, feel free to do so. And I think it's just fascinating is the biggest word and the best word to describe a word I use a lot, I know, but it really is when you look at where Clemson is right now and the fact that this happened. And I'll be honest, I'll be super transparent with you guys. When this first was being floated, I didn't like it. Like my knee-jerk reaction was just like, what? Like, what do you mean? No, there's no way. And I think that the reasons for that is it's obviously very comfortable. It's an easy
Sure.
thing, an easy hire in regards to the relationship, the friendship, the availability, of Coach Morris. The familiarity with the offense, and it's again nothing is going to change from a schematic standpoint because it's been the Chad Morris offense. That's what brought Clemson
Mm,
to this place. Now, obviously, it's the architect back running it, which is an interesting thing. And I think just from I don't know how to phrase this lightly or whatever, but there's there's no new shift of power. It's not like someone's going to come
mm,
in and Coach Sweeney and others are going to have to learn this new language, learn this new system that only said guy has. It's the same thing. Like it's there. And again, it's someone that is very familiar not only with the program but with Coach Dabo Sweeney, how they do things of that nature. So that was kind of the initial knee jerk I don't like it type of vibe. But, as the days went on and as this became a very real thing and as it became official today, we're going to probably post this right away as soon as we're done recording
mhm.
here. It started to settle in a little bit. Okay, there was some great success there. There was some things that really were nice, and the offenses that I was a part of were revolutionary for Clemson. I mean, we were in the dark ages of the I formation before Chad Morris got there and rebirthed that offense and took Clemson to, quite frankly, heights that it hadn't been in regards to speed, getting the ball out, decorated receivers. You look at the receivers that he had, quarterback play, obviously recruiting, a little guy by the name of Deshaun Watson, getting him to come to Clemson. All these different things that again make me feel at ease about it. Now, I was interested in the number, in the financial responsibility and agreement there, and I think I like where it stands. I think 1.2 is great, and that's a ton of money, and certainly. I think it's $100,000 less than when he left, and certainly it's dramatically lower than what you had to pay for a Garrett Riley, who was on top of the coordinator world when he was hired by Clemson. But I think it's a good place. I think it's a good place for everyone to kind of feel safe from a structure standpoint. And if this works, if it doesn't, whatever. There's some buyout clauses that I think are interesting. The one in particular that I saw, I think, JB John posted about how if the offense is not in the top 20, I believe it was, in
Mm,
either of the first 2 years, that third year is not guaranteed money. So that obviously is a little
interesting.
bit of a safety net if this does not work the way that Coach Dabo Sweeney thinks it will work, and that obviously Coach Chad Morris think it'll work. So I think from that standpoint, okay, let's go. And really, the overarching point, the bigger point to me, KG, before maybe we dive into some of the things he did and how it looked like statistics while he was here that first go around. When he first was hired by Clemson, he was severely um, under, like, he wasn't ready, like, from a resume standpoint, or from a,
He's from
uh
high school.
yeah, I mean, it was high school and then 1 year of Tulsa, or a couple years of Tulsa, I can't remember, how many. So from, like, a qualification standpoint, he is way better qualified right now with the, obviously coordinator experience here, but also head coaching experience, and being a coordinator at Auburn, being I think he was a passing game coordinator at Texas State. I think that was the last, job he had before this, before wanting to, be a dad and watch his son, which great year to choose to do that, to
Mhm.
watch Chan Man at Virginia there. So I think for all of those kind of different reasons, you should feel okay. Now, again, everything I said at the front end, that's still here. I mean, it's back here and I think about it. But it does kind of feel like one of those things where let's see what happens. Let's see how it works out on the field.
I'm glad that you're feeling good about it, Mac, because I really have some doubts. But okay, so to your point, he was coaching high school football for most of his career, offensive coordinator at Tulsa in 2010,
Yeah.
and then hired
It
by
was 1
Clemson.
year. So yeah. So I mean, you look at
Yeah.
that. I mean, that would have been back then. I don't think anyone said anything negative about it. Everybody was like, "All right, here we go." When really, you're looking at a guy with little to no experience in regard to what you're doing.
Well, and Clemson was in such a different place
For
in
sure, no
2010. Of
question.
course, Eric McLean had yet to arrive, so that changed everything.
That's really the
Um,
biggest part of
yeah,
the change.
when he left Clemson,
Yeah,
he spent
right.
5 seasons as a head coach. He was at SMU and then, of course, Arkansas for 2 years, and that did not go well. Then he was an OC at Auburn, 2020. Then he returned to Texas High School, Allen High School in 2021, senior offensive analyst at South Florida in 22, and then volunteer assistant at Clemson in 23. I feel like I didn't even remember that, but that's from
Sounds made up.
ClemsonTiger.com.
I
So
think that was a late addition.
sure. Passing game coordinator at Texas State in 24, and then stepped away to watch Chandler. But when you look at his quote, Chad Morris's quote, he thanked Dabo, the Graham, the board of trustees, etc. Then he said, I want to extend my deepest thanks to Tony Elliott, Des Kitchings, and the staff at Virginia for allowing me to be around their program during their historic 2025 season. All last year, I was able to travel and watch and visit and learn from so many different coaches at Virginia and beyond. And I'm excited to bring all that wisdom and knowledge to Clemson. So he obviously had a front row seat to what was going on at Virginia, and Virginia is coming off a lot of success.
Mhm.
So that's all interesting there, Mac. I just feel like this, you say this is still going to be the Clemson offense of what we've seen recently, and because Chad Morris was the architect of the Clemson offense. But has that been working? Like that's the question. Did Dabo need to go do something completely different?
Mhm.
I guess only time will tell,
Right.
but that's what gives me a little pause. Now, I do think the main reason why Chad Morris was successful his first stint at Clemson, yes, he was a good coordinator. I'm not taking that away from him. He had great players. So you talk about those receivers, Sammy Watkins, Nuke Hopkins, Nuke's still playing in the league. Other guys, you'd look at Martavis Bryant, Adam Humphries, Eric McLean, the way when he transitioned to the O line, great running backs, and you had Taj Boyd and Deshaun Watson. So
Mhm.
the hire is what it is. I think to me, my big question is, can you go get players?
Right.
Can you go get the players that you can put in this offense to be successful? And a lot of that starts with quarterback. Now, it's been reported by Tiger Illustrated and others that Clemson is not going to go get a quarterback. You've got Vizina and you have Denson, and maybe it's more of a competition. And Chad Morris is interested in the dual threat ability of Denson. So, okay, that's interesting to me in itself.
Mhm.
But, what can you do in the portal and what kind of athletes can you bring in and who can you retain,
Right.
especially at wide receiver? Those are all my big questions. I think I'm kind of looking more at that, Mac, than maybe just the hire itself, if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
No, I think that's super fair because at the end of the day, you're right. It really, it doesn't matter who's the offensive coordinator. If you don't have the guys, if you don't have a quarterback that can, run the offense, operate within whatever the offense is at a
Yeah.
high rate, an offensive line that can protect, a run game that can go, and obviously receivers that can catch and be super dynamic. I do think the receivers are there if they can keep them. The retention word is
Yes.
huge right now. And again, y'all know how I feel about all of that. I cannot stand where we are right now. And this is not just a Clemson problem. This is a college football program problem where people are like tweeting weird things and
Oh,
positioning themselves
yes.
weirdly. And it's just like, are you in or out? Are you with us? Or are you not with us? And this kind of false thinking of value, and it's way more than probably what it really truly is. Like the thought of it And you have guys that are leaving, and again, this is not a I'm not talking about Clemson, I'm talking about college football. You have guys that are leaving said spot thinking that their market value is exponential. And yet, not only are they going to a lesser school, but they're making less money. Like that's what's happening in a
Hmm.
majority of these situations. And I can't stand it. So, yes, if Clemson can retain the dynamic pieces that it has, which I said it going into last season, were the best in the country. I still feel that way. And with the addition of that young freshman that is going to be electric from
Yep.
Florida there,
Naheem.
I think they still can be that. They can do they just have a quarterback that can get them the ball? And can they catch the ball? Clemson was the most drops in the ACC. I saw that on the bowl game. I couldn't believe that. Seeing that. And can you stay healthy? So that'll be kind of the biggest thing at the receiver position because as it stands today on January 5th, those dudes are there and as dynamic as the guys I ever played with from a collective standpoint and what they have in that room. Quarterback is a
Hmm.
fascinating issue to me. And I say issue because it is a point of concern. We've seen Vizina start one time and he went against the worst passing defense in the ACC and he did what he should. He threw for 300 plus and 3 touchdowns, no picks. Amazing. I then went and saw him go against Furman and the ball didn't move.
Hmm.
Is that his fault? Is that other people's fault? What does it look like? I'm not sure. We saw Denson light it up for 100 yards on the ground. Big long run was perfect through the air. And then you've got Tate Reynolds coming in. A true freshman who is a dual sport guy, is a thicker guy. He's like a bigger Cade who wanted to play baseball, but he said, "I'm not playing baseball because I'm focused on this. Like, this is how important it is to me." So in that conglomerate of three, I don't know if I'm putting the fourth in. Maybe we should. Do you have the guy? I don't know. Do you feel as good as if you went out and paid somebody $5 million to come in and be a quarterback for 1 year? It's a fascinating process and one that Coach Sweeney has admittedly, whether that's public, private, whatever, not wanted to dive in from the quarterback position specifically.
And because you aren't spending the money that you were spending on Cade from the reports we've seen, do you have more money to go get some other guys to shore
Mhm,
up your offensive line or,
mhm.
again, retain these guys, retain Gideon Davidson, retain TJ Moore, retain Bryant Wesco. Like those are pieces. Those are pieces that Chad Morris can work with.
No, absolutely.
Um, those guys look very similar to some of the guys that Chad Morris worked with when he was first at Clemson. And the bigger piece too, Mac, we know, and okay, to me the players are most important. But secondly, Chad Morris he has the experience. He knows
Right.
how to call an offense.
No doubt.
It felt like Garrett Riley at times just the plays he called, when he called them,
Mhm,
certain players not playing and not getting snaps. It's all very concerning there. So Chad Morris does have that experience, and
mhm.
I will give him that. And of course, when he was here, he had great success. It just feels like a retread where maybe you needed to really change things up.
Right.
But again, I'm not in there every day. I don't know if this is what you felt like you needed to do to retain certain pieces. Like
Mhm.
there's so much that goes into it. I am I'm cautiously interested. Like that's kind of the way I'd put it. I'm not expecting too much,
Yeah.
but who knows? I mean, he's a lot of his decisions lately haven't worked out. He's had to fire different coordinators.
Right. It's
Maybe this
fair.
is the one. I just don't
Mhm.
know.
Yeah, it will be very interesting to see. And I think going back to the, rally point and just it felt like oil and water. It just didn't feel like
Yeah.
it worked. It felt like it was just going against each other, whether that was Coach Sweeney and Coach Riley or the offensive principals and Coach Riley. Because the interesting thing about that I think you and I both perked our ears up and our eyes when it was said that Coach Riley was hired. He's coming in here to run the Clemson offense. When that was said, it was just kind of like,
Yeah.
Okay, well, he's never ran the Clemson offense before. So is he going to be
That's not
learning
what
or
he
are we
was
learning
doing.
his
Yeah.
stuff? What's the point of all of this? So I think it's also interesting to see does because of this hire, does that mean everyone who's on staff there is it's status quo? Like, typically when a coordinator comes in, they get to
Right.
bring guys. They get to do that. Now, will that happen? I don't know. Should it happen? I don't know. It will be really interesting, just to see that. But I think at the end of the day, we can only judge on what we know, and what we know now is it worked before. What we know is that he's been a head coach. He was not fired from Clemson. He left Clemson, on his own accord there after a really, significant run. I think the last thing that I'm interested in, and this will be fascinating to follow. Does it happen in spring? Does it happen in camp? Because I do not think you want it to happen in season. Is the last time, the last year that Coach Morris was here, remember the quarterback situation. You had a freshman phenom coming in
Yep.
Deshaun Watson, and a veteran senior that was waiting his turn, and now it was his turn. And you could tell, and I obviously know, he wanted the freshman to go. He wanted the freshman to be the starter, and Coach Sweeney did not. Coach Sweeney wanted the senior to be the guy. And listen, Cole Stout is a dear friend and still on staff, and he did great when the plays were called that suited what he did. Coach Morris
Mhm.
did not call plays suited for what Cole did because he was calling plays for Deshaun Watson. What does that look like? Is he calling plays for Denson, or is he calling plays who the guy is in Vizina, or does it flip and do they go one way or the other? That handling of that situation has a sour taste kind of in my mouth and a sour remembrance of that year, even though it worked out and everything was fine. So what does that look like? Was there growth from that? Did Coach Morris learn from that? Did Coach Sweeney learn from that? I think he, kind of proved that with going to Trevor Lawrence in 2018 as the
Like,
freshman. Yet it probably should have happened earlier. So we'll see. Not saying that's the case. I have no idea. I have not been to practice. I haven't been to any practices seeing these guys. If there's a clear cut, kind of guy like there was then for both of those situations. But that to me will be the really interesting thing right away is because we'll feel that and you'll know. And I've heard rumors and I've heard people talk about Clemson is trying to schedule a week 0
mhm.
opponent or move around a week 0 opponent. I cannot stress the importance of that enough, which
Need it.
clearly they know that, because if the first time we see whoever this new starter is, whether it's Vizina or Denson or someone else, starting in Death Valley, in Baton Rouge will not be fun, and that will be very difficult. So we'll see. But KG, you know me, I'm a positive guy. Try to stay as
Yeah.
positive as I can. And again, at the end of the day, points, yards, and a lot of wins is what happened the last time Chad Morris was here.
I'll add this. One more, again, trying to find positives. Like you said, Eric Michael, I'm trying to do that. One more thing when you were talking about Garrett Riley, it made me think about this. The beauty of this hire is Dabo's gonna trust Chad. And I don't feel like he ever trusted Garrett Riley.
It's a good point.
So maybe you truly let Chad Morris do his thing. Like, you truly kinda take your hands off the offense a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe don't micromanage it as much. Like, maybe that's a good thing, you know?
Right.
We'll see. And
Right.
then again, comes down to players. You were talking about a quarterback duel and a quarterback battle. I do think this is gonna be a battle. Now, I don't think Chris Vincent is Deshaun Watson, but
Sure.
hey, prove me wrong. Let's
There's not a few people
let's
there
see.
are. There's not many people there.
Yeah,
So
there aren't that many.
we'll see. And who knows if Chan Man gets a seventh year, maybe we see him go to another school and finish
Good
the
God.
circle of
That
chaos at
feels
Clemson.
from what I was reading, it feels like they don't think he can get that last year.
I don't
I
either.
don't think that's
But
gonna happen, but
we didn't think any of this stuff would happen, but here we are.
you
So
never
who
know.
knows? It would just
You
really
never
add
know.
to it. Guys, we appreciate you. As we kind of mentioned, this was a little bit of a not a season preview or season look back. We're going to do that. So
Yes,
Clemson
we
fans,
will.
log in. We'll have Larry Williams right back on this thing, and we're gonna wait. I need some stuff to play
Yes.
out, and really need to know what we're talking about before we dive into it. But that's our thoughts on the offensive coordinator, Coach. Chad coming back here. The things that he's going to do. Chad Morris again was my offensive coordinator. Know him well. Seen him from afar. Talked to him a ton this year. The things that he's at Virginia. So welcome back, Coach. Here we go. It's game time. Let's see what happens. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Let us know your comments. I've seen a lot, obviously, on social media, but drop them here in this comments section and tell us how you
Interested
feel.
to
Did
see.
we persuade you at all? If you weren't on or if you were on the fence, or if you were even leaning negatively, are you feeling a little better based on what we said? We'll see. It's going to be really interesting. So we appreciate y'all. Until next time, we'll see you.